Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Today is one of my favorite holidays, 420. Light up everybody, have some fun. Today I will be interviewing one of my favorite cult movie scream queens, Debbie Vorhees, or Debbie Sue Voorhees as she was known back in the day. You may remember her as the girl in Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, who takes a couple of pliers in the eyes. She was also in Appointment with Fear, Avenging Angel, another classic, and a couple others. And she's had an amazing life, amazing career, and we'll be talking about it on today's episode. And I'm pretty damn excited. She was like one of my dream girls growing up. I love her. Debbie Sue Voorhees. This is going to be a fun episode. Oh, this is going to be a fun episode. I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. So, I should be getting down to call her. So, let me call Debbie Sue Voorhees.
Tell me,
Hi, Debbie.
how are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing terrific.
That's super. Today is one of my favorite holidays, 420.
420, yes. I wanted to go. There was a cool festival in Taos, New Mexico today I wanted to go to, but I didn't make it today. Dang it.
Uh, are you a fan of marijuana?
I think that it is probably one of the best medicinal products out there. When it's done well and you've got a complete spectrum product, whether it's CBD or with or without the THC, I think that it has magnificent ways to take care of people and, just I mean the pain relief even without the THC is pretty amazing, and the calming effect and how easy it is on the stomach compared to some of the other drugs. That I had a really bad, horrific back spasm going, and I was
Oh,
taking all of these medicines, trying it. It was making me so sick,
oh,
so sick. And a little bit of that, and went from not being able to eat anything and being sick at my stomach and to feeling good and feeling fine. So yeah, I'm a big believer in it. And as far as recreational, I think it's a lot less damaging than alcohol. So why the hell not?
oh, I agree. Alcohol nearly killed me. I got into a car accident and spent 30 days in a coma.
Oh man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was 3 years ago. And yeah,
Oh.
marijuana is much safer. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, your biggest risk with marijuana is that you might sit around a little more than you should,
Yeah.
or you might be a little bit more laid back. I think we should just put every military in the world on it and politicians on it, and we're all good. We
It'd
won't
be
have any more problems.
it would be a much better world. That's for sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I think you're one of the most beautiful women of all time,
Oh
and
wow, thank you.
oh, my pleasure. And I think that you're also a pioneer because you've done so many different things, and it starts from a time when a lot of people couldn't do a lot of things, and now a lot of people nowadays are doing so many different things. Like me, I do this show. I'm also a comedian, an actor, screenwriter, and I cover conventions and all that. And you're like one of the pioneers of people who like go after what they want to do.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I feel, I've definitely lived the life I've wanted to live. I don't, haven't made compromises. I haven't always, in fact, I've never made a choice based on how much money am I going to make. It's a choice based on, what life I want to live. And I've had a good life. I have no complaints. I'm not going to tell you that I haven't had some really hard knocks like everybody has, and, some really devastating moments. But, at the end of it all, we all have those. None of us get out of this world unscathed, but it's the attitude you get out of here with is the way to go.
Oh, certainly. That's very inspiring. I've listened to the 2 interviews you've done with Greg on Python's Paradise, and he and I have different interview styles, but we're both classy gentlemen, except I have a little bit of an edge to my humor, But I was doing my research, and I read that you come from a family of 10 kids.
9. We're actually 9 of us. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So many American families nowadays don't even have that many children anymore.
No, we don't. Yeah, that's probably a good thing. It's not quite to have quite so many, but I tell you, I feel very blessed to have been raised with so many kids. There's always somebody to play with.
Yeah. I have an older brother who's 9 years older. We had 4 brothers that miscarried between us, and
oh, wow.
yeah, I didn't even know that until I got to be like much older, and I just think about what it would have been like if I had all those brothers. But then I think to myself, I'm a handful. I'm probably all 4 of those brothers.
In some ways, I think having a big family kind of tames you a bit because there's so much going on and so much happening. You don't really have that much time to get into too much trouble.
Yeah. And are you Catholic?
No, we're not.
Because a lot of religious families they have a lot of children. That's why I thought maybe.
Right. No, my mom was just very fertile.
Yeah, I mean, her uterus should be in the Hall of Fame or something.
Well, and she actually only had 6 of us, which was plenty, believe me. But we also had 3 step siblings too.
Oh, okay. So I read that you were a Playboy bunny. How did you get into that?
I went down and knocked on the door and filled out my application, and the next thing I knew, I was in bunny school. And you have to learn how to dip properly, and just how you handle and work with customers and stuff. There's actually quite a lot to it, and that get sized and everything. And the next thing I knew, I was working there. It was a lot of fun. It really was. It was just a really kind of neat camaraderie. One thing that I find interesting is, sometimes people think of it as a little bit on the racy side. Oh, you did that well.
Yeah.
And it was actually quite demure, which may sound odd, but really, other than your arms, you really didn't show any more than what you would have shown in the Victorian period, because everybody thinks, oh gosh, you see all that leg and everything, but you really didn't, because underneath the black stockings were actually leotards that you could not even see through, and so what they thought was flesh was actually a leotard. And so, basically you had cleavage, which was the same as in the Victorian period. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, kind of interesting.
Yeah. How long did you do that for?
I was there right at a year. And shortly, let's see, it wasn't too long after that I went on and moved out to Los Angeles. I guess it was a couple years before I left for LA, but yeah.
Did you ever pose for the magazine?
No, I didn't. We basically, I talked to my agent and stuff, and the reality was, I enjoyed acting and I loved acting, but at that time there were no serious actresses that had posed. Now, you could do nudity in films and still do fine, but not the magazine. And so we opted to do Friday the 13th instead.
Oh, yeah, because I collect Playboys and I collect rare ones and stuff.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
So did you decide that you were going to be a journalist before that, or after?
No, it was after. When I left Los Angeles, I decided what I really wanted to do was to go to college. And I went to college, got my degree. Partway through going to school, I was talking to a counselor and was telling her that I really, wanted to do writing. And so I was kind of trying to figure out a career path that would allow me time to write. And she said, if you want to be a writer, you need to dedicate your time to it. And I literally got up from that chair and went straight to, the registration office and changed my major to journalism. And that was a fabulous career because it was so amazing. All the different types of people that I was able to interview over time, and I always felt amazingly blessed that these people took the time to sit down and be honest and show me their heart and, really share themselves. Because if your subject doesn't share themselves with you, you really can't have a very good story. And so I worked very hard to, be, truthful and respectful of anybody I interviewed. I looked at it as it was my responsibility to not just say what they said, but to explain what they meant. Because the truth of the matter is I found that working as a journalist, that sometimes people felt a little bit intimidated. And I was very careful to try and make them feel very comfortable. And sometimes, they might say something that's like, everything else that person has said, this just doesn't sound quite right. So I would get them to restate it or ask them, what do you mean by this?
Yeah.
And make sure I understood, because it's so often, have you ever been having a conversation and you go, oh, I know exactly what you mean, and then you find out 2 minutes later they were saying something entirely different that didn't have anything to do with what you were thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And so, that happens all the time. And so you can't assume that you understand what someone means. You really have to ask and make sure that you really grasp what they're saying and what they really mean.
Right.
And because we all speak differently, and we have, different words mean different things to us. Different actions mean different things to us.
Absolutely.
I remember this one guy I interviewed, and he was had just gotten here to the United States right after the Berlin Wall fell, and he was on the communist side, and he was so funny. He got on the elevator with me, and I don't know why exactly he was at the paper, but he was, and I ended up interviewing him after I knew a little bit more about his story, because I wanted to talk about the fall of the Berlin Wall through his eyes. And he said, yes, when I first met you, you smiled so big at me, and he said, I had to tell myself, Boris, calm down. She's only being friendly. He said, because a woman where he was from would never smile at you like that unless she wanted to have sex with you. And he said, in the States, it was different.
Oh, my God.
I just, that to me was just like the perfect example of how we see things so differently. You know, yeah, I just thought that was brilliant. I thought that was so adorable. He was comfortable enough to even say it.
Absolutely. Do you have any questions for me?
I don't right now.
Because I'm an open book. I mean, I'll tell you about my virginity loss when I was younger.
Well, tell me about your podcast and what you're doing.
Well, I'm from the Bay Area, and my mom moved to Redding, California, and she needed help with the rent, so I came to live with her. And I'm a comedian, and there's like no comedy clubs over here. The closest we have is Sacramento. And I thought, okay, I gotta keep myself busy, so I just started a podcast on my iPhone in my bedroom to keep me from going insane while I'm here until she retires. Basically.
Oh, bless her heart.
Yeah. So you're my 77th interview. It's going pretty good, I have to say. I mean, I'm not getting a whole lot of followers or subscribers, but I'm just doing it for me so I can practice for the future,
Very nice.
Yeah.
But, what is the name of your podcast?
Splat from the Past.
You actually never told me.
Splat from the Past.
Ah, Blast from the Past, yes.
Splat.
Very nice.
No, Splat from the Past.
Oh, Splat!
Yes. I have never told any guest where the name came from, but I might as well tell you.
Okay.
When I first started it was just strictly horror, and then as time went on, it became every type of '80s movie actor and what have you. But originally, Splat was a pun for blood in horror movies, and the fact that this is so embarrassing now, but the fact that a lot of us nerds, when we watch a lot of these 80s movie actresses, we go splat, if you know what I mean.
Oh, no.
So that's where that came from.
Okay. Oh, that's funny.
Oh, thank you. But going back to you were in Playboy Bunny, and then you just decided you were going to be an actress.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So had you always wanted to be an actress?
Well, really several years ago answered that question for me. I was looking through some boxes at my mom's house, and I found something that I wrote for school in third grade. And I said that I was going to be an actress and a writer. I was like, oh my gosh. So I guess the answer is yes.
Well, you pretty much did it.
Yeah, I have that and more.
Your first movie was Innocent Prey, and you got to work with one of my favorite people of all time, PJ Souls.
Yeah, she's awesome. Oh. I really like her too. She's one of my favorites too.
Oh,
yeah, that was a fun one. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I did do Dallas before that one, but that was, of course, a TV show. But I did that after too. I did it for a while, so that was really nice.
Yeah, PJ, I met her at a convention about 6 months ago, and then I had her on.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I had her on here, and we had just a fun conversation, laughed a lot, and all that. And I'm actually interviewing people at conventions now because of her. She suggested to me that it was a good idea to interview people at conventions. So I've done one so far, and I'm going to do a lot more as the year wears on.
Oh, very nice. What a great idea. That was really thoughtful of her.
Yeah. She's an absolute sweetheart.
Neat.
Did you have any interaction with Martin Balsam?
Oh, yes. Yes, I met him as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's big. Like, in the world of acting, being in a movie with Martin Balsam is like shooting heroin with Miles Davis. You know? Oh, man. Yeah, no, he was a very kind
performer and was very supportive. I mean, that's what you really want when you're acting with somebody, is somebody who's very supportive, and he definitely was.
He wasn't like rough around the edges like so many of those New York actors were back then.
No, not at all, not at all. No, in fact, quite the opposite.
That's good to hear. That's
yeah,
good to hear.
Yeah.
And then you did Avenging.
I've really had very, very good luck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go on.
Oh, okay. Then you did Avenging Angel, and you got to work with Betsy Russell, who I think is the queen of '80s B-exploitation teen movies.
Right. I love Betsy. She's a really nice person too. I enjoyed working with her, and that set was so much fun. Because we were right there. Right in. Like just like a street over from Hollywood Boulevard. So it really felt so raw and so real and so much fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sent her an email the night before my accident, coincidentally, and I didn't.
Oh, wow.
She replied me back. I didn't get it until 5 months later when I was out of the hospital, because I was way behind on my email. I'll tell you, and she was very nice. I told her I wanted to work with her someday, and she lifted up my spirits and told me it's going to happen, and all that. And then I tried to get an interview with her last fall. She's one of those people who says talk to my agent, And by the way, I haven't had any luck with anybody who said talk to my agent, because they see how amateurish my show is looking, and they don't want to quote unquote subject their clients to that,
Right.
But I'm not giving up hope, though. I hope I do get to interview her, because I just adore her.
Oh, I bet you will. Yeah, I think, just give it a little bit of time and, do what you need to do to up your game so that she won't say that anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that's going to mean, but, just it's all in the presentation.
Yeah, that's true.
I bet you will. I bet you'll get there.
Yeah, I'd rather be, evaluated for my professionalism rather than the quality right now, because I'm just beginning. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I love the original Angel with Donna Wilkes, and
oh yeah,
that one's a classic. But I like this one.
Absolutely.
I like this one too, just because I love Betsy, And I used to own it on VHS, and about 5 years ago, I was homeless for a little while. I had to sell most of my VHS library, and that was one of them.
Wow.
But it's got a great cast, though. The great late Susan Tyrrell, who's a San Francisco native like me.
Mm-hmm.
She's in it. Rory Calhoun, another legend of Westerns. And Tim Rossovich, Ozzie Davis, Paul Lambert. Ooh, and S.D. Chandler. What was she like?
I don't recall right off the top of my head which one she was.
Yeah. Oh. Let me look here. I got IMDb right in front of me. Yeah, I reached out to her for an interview recently. She hasn't replied me back. She plays Cindy.
Oh, I'll look it up.
Yeah, I haven't watched the movie in quite a while, too.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But then you did Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, and this is where I fell in love with you, because this scene was a staple of my boyhood fantasies for years. How
thank you.
Of course. How did this role come to you?
I'm in Los Angeles when a studio is putting out a picture. They will send out basically a list of who they're looking to cast. And my agent got the list and felt like I was a good match and sent me out for the audition. And there were a lot of people there.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot.
I wonder if any of them
It
became
kind of felt
famous.
a little bit like a cattle call. It was huge.
Yeah, I wonder if any of them became famous.
Right. Yeah, that'd be interesting to find out. I know that I was in the final 3 for Mystic Pizza.
Oh, wow.
Up against Julia Roberts, and I lost it to her. So
Oh, you could have played the
who
lead?
knows who else might have been there? Because she was, going through all the auditions and stuff when I was.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, if I'm going to lose to someone, that's a good person to lose to.
Yeah, coincidentally.
I was just proud that I made it to 3. I was really close, they told me.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I would have loved to have had that role. That was a neat, fun role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, coincidentally, your last name is Voorhees, and I read that you only saw the first one.
Right. Exactly.
That's my favorite slasher movie of all time. Is the first Friday the 13th.
I like that one a lot too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've met Adrienne King, and I've had her on the show. She's like the aunt I always wanted. I love her.
Oh, neat. Yeah, she's a really nice woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Friday the 13th, part 1 through 6, and then after that, to me, the series got too uninspired. Although I did think that Kane Hodder was the best Jason.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, because he's so menacing playing that character. And I've met him; he's a really nice guy.
Yeah. I've heard nothing but good things about him.
Mm-hmm.
We've had some really, really nice people playing Jason. I talked to a woman the other day who was interviewing me. She was in Ireland, and she said that she's, spent quite a bit of time at conventions and stuff. And she said that when she goes, and very often, the person that played this mega superhero, the good guy and everything, will kind of have airs about him and not be quite so friendly and stuff. But you go over to the guy that's been playing a serial killer, and he's just so warm and nice. And I thought, well, that sounds like the horror world. I mean, it's just filled with some really cool, nice people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love part 5 because the killings are so sadistic, and I have a real dark and morbid sense of humor, which I'm sure you picked up already.
Oh man, yeah, it does. It has some really good kills.
Yeah, like I mean, there's you're killing. About 5 years later, in Child's Play 2, there's a killing very similar to yours, but
oh really?
it's in a doll factory, and a guy gets doll eyes shoved through his eyes, and he's got these doll eyes, and there's blood. It's so hilarious.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, I mean, did you get scared at all during that scene?
No, not at all. It's, I'm sure that, everybody's different, because I've heard other people say, they got really scared,
Yeah.
During, the shooting of whatever they were doing, and I could definitely see how it could be, but for me, it's not scary being on a film set, because being on a film set is so completely, totally unrealistic. Nothing feels real.
Yeah.
On a stage, you have some distance from your audience, and the whole stage is kind of there, and I could see how maybe some fear would creep in, because you're kind of building your character, and you're going through this evolution of this character. But on film, it's cut, action, fixing this light, fixing that, sound problem, tilt your head this way, make sure to cheek this direction, so there's so much that's going on in the cameras and the crew and the makeup and stuff. Mm-hmm. To me, it's not scary. And plus, I mean, like, uh, you know, like in one film that I did, it's when I've been killed 3 times in a horror film, and one of them, I was getting stabbed in the chest, and I walk in this door, and there's supposed to be this serial killer in front of me, and it's a guy with nobody's in front of me, but just at a slight distance is a crew member with a red beard and a big smile chewing on a hamburger. And I'm like, of course I did my job, but it was like, maybe you guys could do just a little something. I know it's my close-up, but how about put a monster there, or, a guy, somebody there looking menacing or something. But yeah, no, just somebody there smiling, eating a hamburger. Like, hi, and like, okay.
Yeah.
So,
I love the boyfriend's death. That black band with the tree branch. That's so sick and demented. I love it.
Yeah, that one's a neat one. The only thing I would have liked to have seen there is I felt it would have been nice to have some cracking there, so the cracking of the skull.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what really would have killed him.
Yeah. Ooh, I like the way you think, Debbie.
I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm just here to make things as scary as possible.
Love it. My favorite killing overall in the movie is when Corey Parker gets a road flare in his mouth.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's so cartoony and over the top.
Right.
I've interviewed Tiffany Helm on the show. I just love her. She's like,
I do too.
She's like one of the guys. Like, I can post the dirtiest stuff on Facebook and she likes it.
Yeah, I really like Tiffany. She's a good-hearted woman. I enjoy hanging with her. I got to see her for the first time since Friday the 13th at the Horror Hound in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
Columbus, Ohio. And oh gosh, it was just so nice. I would really like to spend some more time with her and visit with her more.
Yeah, I'd like to meet her. I met her mother, Brooke Bundy, once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, lovely lady. Lovely lady. I actually heard Linnea Quigley was supposed to play Violet in Friday the 13th Part 5, but the studio didn't want her because she was in Return of the Living Dead, and Miguel Nunez was in that movie too, and they didn't want 2 people from that movie.
Oh really? I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah, and then I interviewed Linnea, and I forgot to ask her, and then she interviewed me at a convention for her documentary, and I forgot to ask her then. I'm going to try to get her back on so I can ask her.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Yeah, what's his name? Danny Steinman, he directed her in Savage Streets, so that does make sense.
Oh, okay, interesting, yeah. He directed her in Savage Streets?
Yeah.
I was thinking that Savage Streets was being filmed at the time that we were shooting. Am I wrong?
It was shot just before. I think it was shot in like the end of '83 or something like that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I must be thinking of a different film then, because I really thought it was being shot at the same time.
Yeah, Savage Streets is with Linda Blair.
Right. It must have been another film that was similar to that in name, because I was offered a role in it, and my agent, I was told, had made arrangements for me to be off of Friday the 13th on that date and go shoot it. And then let's see.
I know what movie. I know what movie. Savage Dawn.
What is it called?
Savage Dawn with
Savage Dawn.
Lance Henriksen.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as it turned out, my agent didn't get it arranged. And so, of course, they were not happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then they needed me on set. And so he thought maybe we could juggle something, get me over to that one and back to the other film, I suppose. But, yeah, but you know, it worked out fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that movie, Savage Dawn. It was also Sam Kinnison's first movie. Every time I'm at a convention that Lance Henriksen is going to be at, I want to ask him about working with Sam Kinison, but then he always cancels his appearance at the last minute.
Oh, man, yeah.
If I could be killed by Jason, I'd like to be tickled to death. 'Cause everything's been taken.
That's right, that's right. Oh, funny.
So then you did Appointment with Fear, a cult classic so many people have never even heard of, and it's sad.
Right.
I'm actually interviewing Carrie Remsen on Sunday.
Are you?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. So how did you get that movie?
You know, it's the same thing. I mean, your agent, you know, takes a look at the different films that are being shot, and they're sent the information. Okay, here are the characters that we're looking for, and you know, once again, it was the same agent as with Friday the 13th. He took a look at the roles and felt like, you know, there were some good possibilities for me, and so sent me over.
Mm-hmm. Is it true that you didn't want to get naked again for the movie?
No, actually, no, not at all. I mean, in fact, it was always meant to be without the, you know, nudity. Other than, I mean, it's there, but you know, they didn't really shoot it that way. But yeah, no, that wasn't really an issue.
I see. And Michelle Little, who disappeared off the face of the planet, what was she like?
You know, honestly, I really found everybody on the set to be really easy to work with.
Mm-hmm.
I've really never had too much trouble on a set. The director was a little bit grouchy, but that's okay. I mean, you know, directors are under a lot of stress and have a lot of things going on, but it wasn't that bad. It was no big deal. You know, it was, I think I've been pretty lucky.
Yeah, James Avery's in it. Michael Weil, who he disappeared, and he was in a couple cult classics. He was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Valley Girl, and Tough Turf, and this, and he disappeared.
Right.
That's good though that everybody was good to work with. Yeah, I like movies with like killer dolls and stuff. I just think it's so funny, even though it's cliche and it's been done so many times. It's still funny, you know. Because
I know, but you know, a doll is still scary as shit.
Yeah.
Just like in a ghost movie, you get a kid, and you get a kid, and that disembodied voice of a kid in a ghost movie scares the shit out of me every time.
Yeah. Like my dad, he grew up watching The Twilight Zone, and they did that episode with Talking Tina, that killer doll.
Right.
Yeah, that was like one of his like earliest memories of that. And they also did another episode with like a ventriloquist who has a dummy that talks on its own. You know?
Oh yeah, I remember that one. I love the scene when he keeps trying to get away from it, and it's like right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really scary one.
Yeah.
I love the Twilight Zone. I think the Twilight Zone is really cool. I like how there's just all these weird little twists, these really kind of unexpected little twists and stuff.
Yeah. Did you ever audition for like an episode of the reboot in the 80s?
No, I didn't.
Because I've had a lot of guests on who were on that show.
Oh, that would be neat. Yeah, I would have liked to have done that.
Mm-hmm. But you did. You had a recurring role on Dallas. What was that experience like?
I loved working on the show Dallas. In fact, what I liked the most was actually I worked for 2 summers. Yeah, was it 2 or 3? At least 2 summers. I worked as a stand-in for Linda Gray and Victoria Principal and all the dark-headed women. in it, and that was so much fun because you're on set every day, you're hanging out, you're part of everything, and when I'd walk on set, Larry Hagman would sit there and sing, that Peggy Sue, I Love You song.
Yeah.
And he would say, Debbie Sue, I Love You.
Oh.
And it wouldn't have been the same if all I had done was, I did 7 speaking roles, and they weren't related. They were all different. Like I was the Queen of the Oil Barons Ball one time, and, waitress a few times, and, a lot of different things. And then plus I did some extra stuff, too. Because usually, if I was there, like one time, we were at a boat dock, and they needed a girl in a bikini, and so just to walk by, and so I did that and a few different things, and so I loved working on that show. Everybody was a blast, and they were all really neat.
And you were on the same time as Lee McCloskey?
Right, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like 30 years old, playing teenagers in a couple cult classics in the mid '80s. Just One of the Guys, Fraternity Vacation, and Hamburger the Motion Picture.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was in his 20s, he had been in Dario Argento's Inferno.
Really?
Which is an Italian horror film. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I heard he's like a painter now or something.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. And then you did an episode of Riptide.
I did.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my most favorite.
That was,
if not the favorite.
That was such a misunderstood series.
I love the series. I thought it was fun, and I loved playing that role. It was comic.
Yeah.
And complete silliness. I loved that. It was a blast. Hippie.
Yeah, Perry King. I mean, he was a big like somewhat successful leading man in the '70s.
Mhm. Mhm.
What's that movie he did? It was a horror movie he did with Shirley MacLaine where she played his younger brother. I think his name was Joel McCrary or something. Something like that.
What's the name of that?
The Ghost of Joel McCrary or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I really don't remember. But I love Shirley MacLaine, too. She lives here in New Mexico. She's up north, about 3 hours in Santa Fe. I'm down south.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's probably still doing all that former life stuff that she was doing.
Mhm.
Yeah, that stuff is so crazy. But if she believes in it, she believes in it.
Yeah. Well, I kind of look at it this way. None of us really know.
Yeah.
And it's possible.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. I keep an open mind.
That's awesome. So, a couple of years ago, you did a film that you wrote and directed called Billy Shakespeare.
I did, yes.
Now, I'm from San Francisco, and I'm a huge supporter of the gay community and cross-dressing and what have you. But what triggered you to make a movie about the subject?
Well, I made a movie about Shakespeare and reimagined that he was here in modern times trying to sell, instead of plays, his screenplays to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And if you look at the history of Shakespeare, it was just kind of a natural way to go. At that time, women didn't perform on stage. And my Shakespeare was obsessed with the Elizabethan period. And that's where he became very familiar with the style of language. And even in his everyday life, he peppered his language with that. Mm-hmm. And so he goes and tries to do an all-male production of Macbeth on stage in this particular case. And, it causes a lot of upheaval. But, he did, for the female roles, he pulls from, the transgender community for that. And, so we had some really incredible performers. It was a blast. I loved it, though. It was my first film. I've done several things since, and I'm in pre-production on a couple more films, and it was an incredible experience to do that film. I had some amazing actors. The guy who played William Shakespeare in it, his name's Jason D. Johnson, and he's just an unbelievably brilliant actor, and I definitely want to work with him again.
Did you cast mainly actors in Texas?
No, I shot that in New Mexico, so it was mainly New Mexico actors.
Wow.
In fact, I think almost all of them are New Mexico. I don't think anybody was from somewhere else.
Oh, I didn't even know New Mexico had an acting community. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, no, we actually have quite a large film industry here because we have a 25% tax rebate, and we have a couple of film studios, and it's actually, it's not as big as LA or Georgia, but it's definitely a big state. It's a great state to film in. Absolutely terrific filming state.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. I'm such a bad fan. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I really want to.
Well, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. It is very offbeat. It's campy. It's I had somebody at one who reviewed it with Broadway World compare it to like Waiting for Guffman. Very, very offbeat.
Oh yeah, I love Christopher Guest movies.
Yeah, and it's that was so much fun. I love the Shakespearean dialogue, and I'm a geek when it comes to I just love to listen to his words because it's just so beautifully put, and no matter how many times you hear his dialogue, there's so much more to it.
Yeah, when Donald Trump got elected, I wanted to make fun of it in my stand-up, right? And I came up with this Shakespeare joke. I said that I woke up on election day feeling like William Shakespeare, and I'm like, to be raped by an elephant or raped by a donkey? That is the question.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
Yeah. Trump's not my favorite, but we're stuck with him for the moment.
Yeah.
I find it baffling that we voted in somebody with literally fourth grade vocabulary.
Not only that, but the Ku Klux Klan lost their best poker player on poker night,
Crazy.
But
Crazy.
But do you have any convention appearances coming up?
Right now I don't. I have a film that's been doing well on the film festival circuit, and I frankly thought I wasn't going to any more film festivals with it because I'm moving on to get another film done. But I was just invited to the Slash and Bash Film Festival in Kansas. That'll be this August, so we'll be there for that, and then we'll see. Right now, I'm furiously working on a film in pre-production, and so hopefully it won't be too much longer, and I'll be able to fully announce it. We're getting close.
Well,
but, as you probably know, pre-production, it's that time when a film makes it or breaks it. So. But
Yeah.
I feel pretty good. I think we're gonna get it made.
Can you disclose what the movie is about?
It's a horror thriller. I can't say too much more than that, but I have got some pretty amazing people that you'll recognize from Friday the 13th.
Wow.
On board. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah, I just went to my first film fest. It was a horror film festival, but it was my first film festival overall. I resisted the idea of going to a film festival for years because I didn't know that they were in movie theaters. When I think of festival, I think of an outdoor festival, right? I'm like,
right.
Who wants to watch a movie outdoors, you know? And so that's what I thought.
I love watching movies outdoors. We did that when I was a kid.
Oh, the drive-in.
The drive-in.
Yeah.
But even you go to these huge major parks and they put up these gigantic film screens and everybody would sit out on the grass and watch a movie. It was a blast.
Oh yeah, I went to drive-ins when I was a kid, but I thought that they were going to watch movies outdoors with no car, like it's not a drive-in, you know. So I was turned off by the idea, and then somebody told me, no, it's not like that at all. It's usually in a movie theater, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try it then, and I did it, and I felt like I was in my own like adult Disneyland, you know, because I'm such a movie buff, you know.
Right.
But I hope I do get to meet you at a convention or a festival one day because I've enjoyed talking to you. You're such a sweet lady.
Well, thank you. That would be lovely. I hope we do get to meet.
Yes, absolutely. And since you have a great sense of humor, I'd like to wrap this up by telling you a couple of jokes.
Okay.
Do you know why men like to marry virgins?
They're insane.
That's one way of putting it, but it's also because they can't stand criticism.
I like that. Okay, what's the other one?
This one's kind of corny, but how do you make an orange laugh?
How do you make an orange laugh?
Yeah.
Gosh, peel it?
Tickle its navel.
Cool, I like it.
Yeah, it's a joke I can relate to because I have an Audi.
Okay.
So, Deborah, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I've had a really bad week, and this cheered me up. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry you had a hard week, but
it's life.
That we were able to connect.
Yes, absolutely. May I send you a request on Facebook?
Absolutely. I am, just so you know, I'm like super backed up, but send it to me. I keep my numbers at 499 just so that people can still contact me, and I will add you on as soon as I can. In fact, there's probably somebody I can bump. So I'm trying to keep, you know. I don't know why they limit you. I don't understand. They're like always pushing you. Oh, hi, find this friend, meet this person. Well, why limit us to 5,000? I mean, that's just nuts. And I'm glad you told me. Thank you for telling me, because I have a huge, long line of people. And, you know, when people are fans and stuff, I don't want to turn anybody away.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of sucks, but that's why I have the Sheer Horror page. And you're on there, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, because that's honestly, that's where I spend most of my time. I don't even I used to on my personal page put out political stuff. And actually, that's a really good way to get a few spaces opened up.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Throw something out there like that, and well, there went a few more.
Yeah, it's funny. certain stars that I've interviewed on the show, right? That I'm Facebook friends with, right? Every day I'm seeing them post something political like every minute, right? And I'm like, God, it's I mean, aside from the fact that they're liberals, it's no wonder they don't get hired anymore.
Oh dear, yeah, it's funny.
So thank you so much, Deborah.
Well, I sure appreciate it. Thank you. Take care, Tommy.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Debbie Sue Voorhees. Ain't she a sweetheart? Thank you so much, Debbie. That was a really great interview, and I enjoy talking to you. You're very easy to talk to, and I hope I get to meet you one day. If you like this video, everybody, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes. And happy 420. 420, baby.